I want to start this hour by telling you a story. An awful story, actually. A story of deep personal tragedy. For you see, like Rishi Sunak, I too was privately educated. Like Rishi Sunak, my parents did very middle-class jobs. Mine were both teachers. And like him, I grew up in a loving household where we ate nice food and had a garden and went on one holiday to France a year. But there was a dark cloud over my childhood, a suffering that has left scars, for like Rishi Sunak, I too grew up without Sky TV. Picture it if you can allow yourself to wander into that hellscape. How was I, aged 13, going to be able to join the discussion with my school friends during the tea we were having in the cricket pavilion about the latest endorsement of MTV's Cribs? How could you do this to me? I bellowed through tears at my bewildered parents, who seemed totally oblivious to the fact that other children could watch endless Friends reruns on Paramount. And when it came to Sky showing the odd Preston North End game, torture. We'd have to go to someone else's house to watch it or find a pub that would show it. No, I didn't go hungry. No, I didn't have holes in my shoes. Yes, I had an incredibly privileged education with access to huge opportunity and resources. I was surrounded by supportive and loving family units. But would I have given all that up for Sky? To be able to skip past hundreds of channels showing nothing but reruns of old shows I'd either watched or hadn't wanted to watch when they were on terrestrial TV? Was it really too much to ask to be in the vanguard of those able to watch films on the telly just 5 years after they were first released in the cinema? Is that a cruelty that Rishi Sunak and I were just expected to endure? I don't see my parents anymore, I can't bear to, but when I'm forced to spend time in their company, I spit on the ground. How could they? How could they have dragged me up without Sky TV? Here's the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, my family emigrated here with very little, and that's how I was raised. I was raised with the values of hard work.
What did you go without as a child?
We went out with lots of things, right? Because my parents wanted to put everything into our education, and that was a priority.
So what sort of things had to be sacrificed?
Lots of things, right?
Can you give me an example
all
of
sorts of things. So, like lots of people, there'll be all sorts of things that I would have wanted as a kid that I couldn't have, right? Famously, Sky TV.
Okay.
So that was something that we never had growing up, actually. But it was lots of things. But again, that's my experience is obviously going to be what my experience was, what is more important are my values and how I was raised. And I was raised in a household where hard work was really important. You had to work very hard, and family was important, service to your community was important.
I was there in 2017 for the Fields of Wheat answer. If you are too young to remember it, Theresa May was asked the question by Julie Etchingham of ITV, what is the worst thing that she did as a child? And having not particularly thought about the answer for too long, it being quite a tough question to answer for a politician, came out with the line that the worst thing she did as a child was to run through a field of wheat and the farmer wasn't very happy. It was a disaster of an answer. We had our head in our hands at the time. It was clearly rubbish. But I think this Sky TV answer is actually, in a sense, worse. Because Rishi Sunak seems to think he can play on the pitch that says, yes, during my childhood there were sacrifices. We had to make some very difficult choices about what to prioritise. He believes himself to be in a position of being able to understand and agree with people who have had childhoods that were far less opulent, certainly from an educational perspective, than his were, because he understands what sacrifice is. Example, Sky TV. And written down or said out loud, and in the context of someone who is attempting to run a country of 60-odd plus million people, that is obviously a ludicrous pitch for Sunak to try and play on. You can't play on that pitch if you've been privately educated. I'm sorry, I realise that your parents may have had to make some sacrifices to pay for your education, but that is a choice they wanted to make. It's a sacrifice they were willing to make in order to have you privately educated. Sky TV isn't a necessity, is it? You might have thought that MTV Cribs was growing up, but it's not a necessity. So why is it that Sunak thinks he plays on that pitch? Why does he try and answer a question that doesn't apply to him in his particular position? What is it redolent of? What is it emblematic of? Here is a man who genuinely believes himself, although he was laughing when he gave the answer, genuinely believes himself to have been in a position of sacrifice as a child, or his family were in a position to have to sacrifice things because he went to private school.